They say never mix love and business. But what if the person you loved most didn't just break your heart, they stole your future? This isn't a breakup story. My name's Ethan Cole, and 3 years ago, I learned that betrayal doesn't always come with knives, sometimes it wears perfume and signs contracts. It's the story of how I lost everything, my company, my savings, my peace, and still found the one thing she couldn't steal: control. I was 35, living in Seattle, running a small but growing design startup called Northline Studio. We built brand identities for new tech companies, sleek logos, investor decks, digital marketing campaigns. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Every inch of that office was built from sleepless nights and bad coffee. I'd started the company with 2 friends, but after the pandemic, one moved to Denver, the other joined a bigger agency. By 2022, it was just me, my laptop, and the stubborn belief that hard work would fix everything. That's when she walked in. Her name was Claire Donovan, tall, polished, MBA from Stanford, marketing genius, or so her resume said. She'd applied for a partnership position I hadn't even posted publicly, said she heard I was looking for someone to scale the brand. From the moment she spoke, everything about her was calculated confidence, the kind that makes you feel seen, even if she's studying how to use you later. She told me she'd left a Fortune 500 firm because she wanted something smaller, more meaningful. I should have known that was the first lie. Still, when you're exhausted, flattered, and lonely, the right kind of charm feels like oxygen. At first, she was brilliant. We rebranded Northline. Clients tripled. Revenue soared past $1.2 million in a year, more than I'd ever dreamed. She worked late, talked strategy over whiskey, and somewhere between late nights and missed boundaries, our partnership turned into something else. I told myself it wasn't reckless, that it was destiny. Business partners fall in love all the time, right? We signed a 50-50 partnership agreement, shared profits, shared the same bed, and eventually, shared an apartment overlooking Lake Union. It felt like love, but it was really leverage. The first cracks came small. She started taking client calls without looping me in. Invoices went through her private email. She changed the company passwords, for security reasons. When I asked about it, she laughed, "Ethan, you're brilliant at design, but you're not exactly Mr. Organization. Let me handle the back end." I let her. Because love, when mixed with ambition, sounds a lot like trust. 6 months later, we landed a major client, Vastwave Technologies, a new fintech startup. They wanted us to build their brand from scratch, name, logo, pitch, everything. The deal was worth $750,000, the biggest we'd ever signed. That night, we celebrated with champagne. She kissed me, said, "This is it, Ethan. We're finally on the map." I believed her. 2 months later, the map burned. One Monday morning, I walked into the office, coffee in hand, and my keycard didn't work. Inside, my employees were whispering. Claire was in the conference room with 2 men I'd never met. She didn't even look surprised to see me. "Ethan," she said coolly, "we need to talk." I still remember that sterile conference room smell, glass cleaner, stale air, and the end of everything I built. She slid a folder across the table. "Effective immediately, Northline Studio is under new management. You've been voted out." I blinked. "Voted out? Claire, it's a 2-person partnership?" She smiled. "Not anymore. You signed a clause 6 months ago allowing the board to expand. Remember that investor proposal I drafted? I executed it. They're shareholders now. And they've chosen me as CEO." My throat went dry. "You forged this." She shook her head, calm as ice. "You signed it, Ethan. You just didn't read it." I left the office that day with nothing, no computer, no access, not even the logo I designed. She'd changed passwords, locked bank accounts, and even rerouted clients to her new company email. Northline Studio, the business I'd spent 7 years building, was gone. And so was she. A week later, she moved out of our apartment. She didn't leave a note. Just a text. "It's not personal. It's business." For the first few months, I drowned. Bills piled up. Clients ghosted me. My name vanished from the website. LinkedIn said co-founder, but legally, I was nothing. Every morning I woke up in a half-empty apartment, her perfume still clinging to the curtains. I replayed everything, every contract, every kiss, every moment I thought was love. It all felt rehearsed now. But pain, when it hits hard enough, eventually becomes strategy. 3 months later, I hired a lawyer. Not to sue her, I didn't have the money for a full case, but to study her. To understand what she'd done, how she'd done it. What we found was worse than betrayal, it was genius. She hadn't stolen the company overnight, she'd built a paper trail months in advance. Fake invoices, shell investors, internal votes that never happened. She'd even trademarked the Northline name in her own name before the deal closed. In short, she didn't just steal from me, she erased me. And I realized something: suing her wouldn't fix that. But exposing her? That might. So I started small. A new domain. A new company. Same city, Seattle, but this time, no partners, no signatures, no shared passwords. I called it Ghostline Creative. For 6 months, I said nothing. While she flaunted her CEO title on magazine covers, I quietly rebuilt my client network. A few old clients found me, remembering who'd actually done the work. I took small contracts, startups, nonprofits, and grew them like wildfire. Meanwhile, I started collecting evidence. Emails. Tax records. Messages. Every piece of her betrayal, documented. Then came the real twist. One of her biggest new clients, Brindle and Hart, a real estate investment group, reached out to me privately. They'd seen my old designs and wanted me to consult on a rebranding crisis. When I looked deeper, I realized the crisis was her doing. She'd promised them deliverables she couldn't meet, inflated invoices, and missed deadlines. I asked them to send me everything. When I saw her emails, my heart slowed. She'd used my old templates, and even forged my name on some proposals. It was all I needed. I compiled everything into a 42-page report: screenshots, invoice logs, message timestamps, every digital footprint she thought she'd erased. Then I sent it to her investors, the same ones she used to oust me. 3 weeks later, her LinkedIn title changed from CEO to independent consultant. Northline Studio was under investigation for fraudulent misrepresentation and trademark manipulation. She'd burned the empire she stole, all by herself. But revenge didn't feel like fireworks. It felt like quiet justice. Because while her empire crumbled, Ghostline Creative kept growing. Clients started referring me as the guy who does honest work. By late 2024, I'd doubled what Northline ever made, $2.4 million in revenue. No partners. No debts. Just clean success. And one night, as I was closing up my office, my phone buzzed. A number I hadn't seen in a year. "Claire, Ethan, can we talk?" I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed one word. "Sure." We met at a rooftop bar downtown, the same one we'd celebrated our first big deal at. She looked the same, except for the eyes, tired, brittle, cornered. She said she wanted to clear the air. "I lost everything," she said, voice trembling. "Investors pulled out. My accounts are frozen. I never meant for it to go this far." I leaned back. "You meant every step of it. You just didn't think it would come back." She nodded slowly, eyes wet. "I made a mistake." "No," I said quietly. "You made a choice." She tried to explain, said she'd done it out of fear, that she thought I'd leave her like everyone else. That she wanted control before she got hurt. But betrayal doesn't sound like fear when you're the one bleeding from it. It sounds like arrogance. When she asked if I could help her rebuild, I laughed. "I already did," I said. "You just weren't part of it." Her face fell. "You think you're better than me now?" "No," I said. "I just stopped being what you made me, dependent." She left without finishing her drink. The city lights behind her shimmered like reflections in broken glass. A month later, the federal fraud case closed. She was banned from registering a business for 5 years and fined $180,000. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post about it. I just drove to the lake, the same view from our old apartment, and sat there until sunrise. That's when it hit me: revenge wasn't the victory. Freedom was. She took my company, my love, my pride, but in doing so, she gave me something better: clarity. I built my empire again, not from anger, but from understanding. Because once you see how people manipulate love to control you, you stop handing them the pen to write your story. Last month, Forbes ran a feature titled, "From Ruin to Reinvention, The Ghostline Comeback." They called me the man who turned betrayal into business. I call it balance. And sometimes, balance means walking away from the fire you started to save yourself. After the Forbes feature ran, my inbox flooded with messages: old clients, strangers, even former employees from Northline. Some congratulated me. Some apologized for believing her. And some, the quietest ones, just wrote, "Thank you for saying what we couldn't." It's funny how many people carry betrayal like a silent disease, afraid to talk about it, afraid to admit they were fooled. I read every message. Some made me smile. Some made me ache. But one stopped me cold. It was from Claire's mother. "Ethan, I don't know if you'll read this." I wanted to say, "I'm sorry." I raised her to believe survival meant control. She learned the wrong lesson. She ended it with a line that felt like both a curse and a prayer. "I hope you find peace where she found power." That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my desk, lights off, laptop glowing, rereading that message. I realized that the story wasn't just about what Claire did, it was about what I let her teach me. For years, I equated love with sacrifice. I thought being loyal meant being blind. And when she turned that loyalty into a weapon, I called it devotion. That's what betrayal really is, not the breaking of trust, but the realization of your own silence. Weeks passed. Seattle turned colder. The same city that once felt like a battlefield now felt like a blank page. I started taking long walks by Gasworks Park, where you can see the skyline reflected in the lake. That reflection, city lights over dark water, felt like my life, something broken still shining. Sometimes, I'd see couples laughing along the boardwalk, holding coffee cups, making promises they hadn't broken yet. And I'd wonder if they understood how fragile it all was. Because love, when mixed with ambition, is like fire and gasoline, it warms you until it burns you. About 2 months after the article, I got another message, this time from a new startup founder named Riley James. They'd read my story, seen my work, and wanted to collaborate on a brand campaign. When I walked into their office for the first time, I felt something I hadn't in years, hope, untainted. Riley wasn't like Claire. She asked questions instead of assuming answers. Listened instead of competing. Where Claire used people to climb, Riley built ladders so others could rise. We started working together, late nights, coffee runs, brainstorming sessions that felt like real creation again. One night, as we wrapped up, she said, "I read what happened to you, Ethan. I'm glad you didn't let her define you." I smiled faintly. She tried. But definition only lasts until you rewrite it. The truth is, you never fully move on from betrayal. You just stop letting it write your script. There are still nights when I wake up at 3 a.m., replaying the sound of that conference room door closing, the silence after she said, "It's not personal." But then I remind myself, it was personal. And I survived it. That's the quiet miracle no one talks about, surviving the thing that should have destroyed you. 3 months later, I got an invitation. It was for the Northline liquidation auction, all assets being sold to pay debts. Desks, computers, artwork, even the office chairs. I shouldn't have gone. But I did. When I walked through those glass doors again, the air still smelled the same, sharp, sterile, like ambition and betrayal. But the nameplate that once read Claire Donovan, CEO, now read property of receiver. I walked past the conference room where it all ended. The table was gone. Only the light fixture remained, swaying faintly from the vent breeze, like a pendulum marking time. The auctioneer started listing items. I didn't bid on much. Just one thing, a small, framed photo I'd once taken for our company website. It was of the Seattle skyline, printed in black and white, captioned, "We build what lasts." When I got home, I placed it on my office wall. Not as a reminder of her, but as proof that even the things they take from you can be reclaimed. Riley and I kept working together. Ghostline grew faster than I could have imagined, new clients, new team, new reputation. But what mattered most wasn't the success. It was the peace. There's a difference between winning and healing. Winning is external, it looks good on paper. Healing is internal, it feels good in silence. I used to think revenge was about making them pay. Now I know it's about making yourself free. One evening, about a year later, I got an email from a familiar address. Claire again. "Ethan, I saw the Forbes article. You deserve it. I wanted you to know I'm leaving the country. Starting over. Maybe that's for the best. Take care." No apology. No closure. Just absence, her favorite form of control. But this time, I didn't need words. I opened her email, reread it once, and then hit delete. And for the first time in years, it didn't feel like erasing something. It felt like cleansing. A week later, Riley and I took a business trip to San Francisco to meet investors. We got caught in the rain walking back from the meeting, both drenched, both laughing like kids. She looked at me and said, "You know, for someone who built a company on betrayal, you smile a lot." I grinned. "That's because I stopped seeing betrayal as the ending. It's just Act 1. She nodded. "Then what's Act 2? "Whatever we create next," I said. When I got back to Seattle that night, I stood by my office window, watching the city lights flicker across the water. The same skyline from that photo, only now, it wasn't a dream or a wound. It was a reflection of survival. And I realized something: betrayal doesn't define you. How you respond does. Claire taught me what power without love looks like. Riley reminded me what love without power feels like. And somewhere between those two extremes, I found balance. 6 months later, Ghostline Creative hit $3.1 million in annual revenue. We opened a second branch in Austin, Texas. And I made sure every employee owned part of the company, no silent partners, no secret signatures. Because trust, once lost, only returns when it's shared. When the team asked what to name our new building, I didn't hesitate. Call it the lighthouse, I said. Because if there's one thing betrayal teaches you, it's how to find light, even when everything else is dark. Now, when I tell this story, not for pity, but for people still stuck in their own, I say this. Betrayal isn't your ending. It's your education. It's the moment you learn the difference between someone who loves you and someone who uses your love to climb higher. It's the moment you stop needing closure from them, because you've already closed the door yourself. If you've ever been there, if someone took your trust, your work, your peace, I want you to remember this. You are not what they broke. You are what survived after. And the world will see that, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but when it does, they'll call it strength. I call it clarity. So tonight, wherever you're watching from, whether it's a dark apartment, a quiet office, or just your phone screen in bed, take this story with you. Because betrayal doesn't whisper your failure. It announces your rebirth. And if my story reached you tonight, if it reminded you that revenge doesn't always mean violence, sometimes it just means moving on louder than their lies. Then do me one favor. Hit that like button. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe to Betrayal Nation, help us reach 5,000 subscribers so more people can turn pain into purpose. Because here, every story is a scar that learned how to speak. And every betrayal is just the beginning of becoming unstoppable. This is Ethan Cole, and this is Betrayal Nation. Please come back tomorrow to our channel for a new true story that reminds the world, no one breaks you forever.